Hello everyone. Happy New Year's and I hope you guys are doing great. As 2023 is now over and we're into 2024, it is time to reflect on some of the things that has happened to us during this year. And today I'll be talking about three things in particular. One financial, one physical, and one mental. Now, these are the three areas of life that I happen to face a lot of challenges in the last couple of years. And out of all the experiences that I have had, the mistakes that I made, things that I have done wrong, things that I could have done a little bit better, out of all the learnings that I have had, I thought I might as well share my experience with you guys so that some of you might find this information quite useful. So let's start with the financial tip. So here is my biggest takeaway in terms of financial affairs from 2023. If you have asset, you must have appropriate insurance to protect those assets. Now, to give you an example, I had a car accident a year before, back in 2022. And it was not my fault, and as such, I thought I might as well handle the situation very easily. But as things unfolded, it turned out to be quite the opposite. And after going through all the hassle, at the end, I felt like I didn't get the justice. Now, the reason for this failure, obviously, because I was not covered to protect my asset during this particular period of my life when this incident took place. Now, obviously, you don't buy insurance because you have to pay for it, of course, right? And because you didn't pay for the insurance, you save some money. But when this incident happened, I ended up paying a lot more than what I would have had I paid for the insurance over the last couple of years to protect my asset. I had to file a lawsuit against the at fault party. I had to pay for filing my case. I had to pay for the lawyer's fee. And on top, I ended up wasting hundreds of hours of my valuable time going through numerous documents, whether it's communication with the lawyers, communication with the insurance companies, at fault party, his lawyer, and many other things. I had to put up with all the hassle, all the inconveniences. Not only that the money that I saved was gone, I ended up paying a lot more. And it was only because I didn't have the appropriate insurance to protect me against such incidents. So if you have asset, you should always ask this question: what can go wrong? There is this old saying that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And this ancient nugget of wisdom shines through even today. And I had a first-hand experience of the significance of this wisdom, let's say within a span of a year and a half. Like this incident took place in 2022 and this case settled in 2023. So about a year, or roughly just over a year, I realized how significant this learning is. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Okay, so you should always be covered for the rainy days. If you have insurance, like if you have asset, you should always have insurance to protect your asset. This is my financial takeaway of 2023. Now let's move on to the physical takeaway. Now, I had a lot of cravings for sugar. Cakes, dessert, pastries, you name it. When I see those things in front of my eyes, I can't resist the temptation of walking up to those items and grabbing a bite. And it was not a big issue up until very recently. In 2023 in particular, I faced a massive health issue. I was feeling very exhausted. I was feeling very fatigued, tired. And I really didn't realize as to why this was happening. Okay. And initially I thought it was because of my lower intake of fluid. So I ended up drinking more water, which was great. But I still had the same fatigue. And when I was feeling hungry before, I used to binge on these cakes and pastries because, if you eat sugar, you get a burst of energy, right? And that's how you keep going. But I ended up with the exact same issues despite the fact that I was binging on these things, these cakes and pastries, these sugary items. And these sugary items, as soon as you eat them, because they're made in such a way to give you a dopamine burst, those items are getting me hooked over and over and over, so that I was eating them every now and then. And as I was eating them every now and then, I was actually losing my appetite for a proper meal. When it was time to have a proper meal, I was either skipping it or having it in a much lower proportion. And as I was having those proper meals at a lower quantity, I was being deprived of vital nutrients. And when I saw the doctor to realize what was going on, the doctor suggested that I was lacking in vitamin C. And then I ended up, buying an over-the-counter vitamin C supplement. And then I did this experiment that, okay, let's try, instead of binging on this sugar, these cakes and pastries, let's replace them with protein. So when I was feeling hungry, instead of grabbing a piece of cake, I was getting a slice of meat or fish plus some carbohydrates, some rice. And as soon as I started doing this practice, I realized a significant change in my physique. Not only I was getting hungrier, I was eating more, but also at the same time, the problems that I was facing, the fatigue, the exhaustion that I was facing throughout the day, slowly started to disappear. Now I have more energy than I used to have just over 6 months or a year ago. And it was a very painful learning on my behalf, because like cakes and pastries, this reward, like as soon as you eat those cakes and pastries, this dopamine burst goes on, it gives you reward, and that reward gets you hooked into these kind of things. But in the long run, this reward was actually getting me punished. Okay. So my realization is this: if you want to achieve something, you have to give up something else. Something for nothing doesn't really exist. If you want to achieve something, you must give up something else. If you choose a particular course of action, you also have to accept the consequences that are heading your way. This is my realization in terms of financial takeaway. And finally, the mental takeaway. And here is the mental aspect of this journey, the mental takeaway. Don't find a fault, find a remedy. Okay. Now, over the last couple of years, I realized that we human beings are meant to be social. We are not meant to live an isolated life. But if you move to a new country like Australia, and find your place in a city like Sydney. It is a big city. It is a very busy city. Okay. There are lots of challenges that you might have to face. There are language barriers, there are cultural barriers. So when I ended up in a busy city, in a big city like Sydney, I didn't have, and I still don't have many friends. And if you don't have many friends in a city like Sydney, in a big city, in a busy city like Sydney, it is very likely that you will not have a healthy social life. And that was exactly my case. And I was feeling very lonely, very depressed out of this situation. And then it dawned on me one day that, okay, what can I do about it? Now, this blogging, this video making is actually a newfound passion. But I have a passion in a different area, photography. I got involved into photography about a decade ago by one of my very good friends. And then I got involved into a project. It is called 100 Strangers. Like, you can Google it up. There is a group in a photo sharing community called Flickr. The group is titled 100 Strangers. Like, the idea is you would meet completely random strangers on the street, and on your first meetup, you will take their pictures and you get to know them and you write about them. Okay. But when I moved over here, when I moved to Sydney, I was feeling a bit awkward about this whole idea. This idea of approaching completely random people. Like overseas, when I was doing the project, I used to hang around with a lot of photographer friends. There were photography groups, and we used to go on photo walks where we would go as a group to a different place. And as there were people around me with a camera, everybody knows that you are doing photography. And you feel much more relaxed in an environment like that. So we'd be going out and approaching random people. They knows that you're doing photography, right? It was a very relaxed, very laid back kind of an approach. But moving over here, without any friends, without any photographer friends, to do the same project with me, I was feeling quite awkward about this idea of approaching random people on the street, like what they might think. They might as well judge you. They might think you were weird. They might think that you were trying to sell something, right? And of course, there is this fear of rejection, that if you walk up to someone, if you have the courage to walk up to someone, they might as well say no to your approach. And a rejection is not the best feeling that you might have out of a conversation, if you are not, especially if you're not used to it. So I was having all these inner dialogue within me, this fear of rejection, this loneliness, depression, sadness, anxiety. All of these things were holding me back from taking the action, going out and talking to random people. But when I actually did it, it was a tough task. It was a very daunting task at the beginning, but when I did, this whole experience turned out to be quite an amazing experience for me. This whole execution, this whole action of going out and talking to random people turned out to be such an amazing experience for me. Like, if you follow my channel, you will see I ended up having a lot of fun. Instead of feeling awkward, forget about that awkwardness and all those things. Now, of course, I was rejected. I was not welcomed in every conversation that I initiated. But I happened to come across a lot of people who were very welcoming in my approach. Again, these are completely random people, the people I have never ever met before in my life. But they were very welcoming in my approach, and I ended up having a lot of fun with them. You will see quite a few videos. If you check out my stream, you will find that I had pictures, I had videos with completely random strangers having fun. So here is the takeaway. If you are faced with a challenge, if you're faced with a difficult situation, it might be an opportunity, it might be a window for other potentials in your life, for other experiences in your life. Right now, of course, I'm making a video. Again, if I was absorbed in a very familial affair, I might not have this time to make this video, for instance. Or I probably wouldn't have that level of experience that I have had with my completely random strangers that I did for the sake of the project, 100 Stranger Project. So when you are faced with these kind of challenges, it might create a window, an opportunity for having different experiences in your life. So instead of finding a fault, it is better to find a remedy that might make you a better person, that might help you uplift your mood, that might help you overcome those negative emotions that we are all vulnerable to, and that might help you to have a positive outlook towards life. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If that is the case, give it a like, share this message, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye for now. Thank you.